meant for hurricanes or tropical storms. But they're very resilient. They stay there. They hunker down and, get some of them literally blown away, and they go right back. It's more than I can stand. I don't know if I could do that. Linda is saying something. Oh, you're shaking your head and saying something, and I didn't know if you were talking in tongues or what.
I muted myself. Let's let Jim get started. I don't know how long his program is, but we'll let him get started.
Well, I can't bring the slides up until I get this. I'm trying to reboot now.
Okay, so we'll wait for you.
Yeah, I guess we can just talk a little bit.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, selves.
So we didn't even get any rain during the storm, so I'm down at the south end of the state.
Yeah, Jim, you're in the Hilton Head area, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
About 100 miles south of you.
Yeah, that's not really South Carolina. That's Hilton Head.
Yeah. Separate, huh?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You doubt that, look around. And then when you get on Hilton Head, take another look. Different. Beautiful.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Did everybody get their presidential alert today?
Yeah. After I got off of my motorcycle, I saw it.
Yeah. It went to every cell phone that was connected to the network in the country.
Modern technology at its best, I think.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going to use it for, except to let us know if we go to war,
The sky's the limit.
Oh, was that the test of the emergency broadcast system? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at 2:18.
Yeah, they said it twice.
Oh, really? I only got.
Yeah.
Weird.
And then once, and I got it about 11 minutes later.
Huh.
So.
One, but I don't.
That means you're going to get hit first.
Oh.
We having technical difficulties?
Just me. I'm the speaker.
Do you want to send me your PowerPoint or whatever it is, and then worst case I can pull it up.
Yeah, I can do that.
Sorry I'm late, folks.
Yeah, 50 lashes a little wet noodle, no big deal.
No, you'll be fine, and you can send me the money.
There isn't a system like that in most meetings, huh?
We're
Your
brutal.
penance will be to ride around the block 50 times on one wheel.
Was there a determination on the Happy Bucks thing?
Not yet. We'll talk about it at the board meeting next week. We might have a possible solution that's easy, but board's got to decide.
Evening, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
Shame on you.
See, Scott, you're not so late after all.
Oh, good. So I get to pass my fine on to the next guy.
I couldn't sign in at home. I had to come back outside to the camper.
Oh, what?
Our home Wi-Fi is broke right now for some reason.
Must be gremlins in the air floating around, causing technical problems tonight.
Yeah, it's getting close to Halloween, so.
That's it. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, Glenda was here. Well, actually, she was in her car.
Yeah, she's there. She's still there.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm just getting home from town. You'll see me in a few minutes.
Well, we saw you in your Splendor in your vehicle with a little roof and everything, and then you kind of went away.
I'll be there soon.
Okay, cool.
Linda, for future reference, is this meeting always available?
Yep,
Unplugged for like a couple minutes.
it is. And this is what we'll be using to record your program for next month.
I'll be on a different computer then, so.
Yeah, this is Tom. I probably will be on a real computer also.
You will.
A computer?
I'm on a cell phone in Silver Springs, Florida, and I don't know if anybody can hear or see me, but I can see you all, even though audio cuts out now and then.
We see you fine.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I
good.
see you fine, Tom.
Are you sure you're happy seeing me? Shall I blank me out?
We
Well,
thought maybe you just woke up from a nap.
Even when you're
Well-
picture dancing.
Yeah, being on the cell phone, I've been, rocking the thing around trying to figure out where the best reception was.
Try standing on your left leg, holding your right arm at a 45-degree angle, and don't forget the aluminum foil. That helps.
Let's see,
That sounds like a Twister thing.
Yeah. Statue of Liberty or John Travolta.
Yeah, that's
One of the-
great. My mistake.
Well, tomorrow I arrive in Marco Island and I get back on the Yamaha.
Nice.
Right. Carefully. Where are you going when you get on it?
I'm attempting to see if I can start it and not have a dead battery.
Oh,
Charge it before you get on it.
It's been sitting there since mid-May, and I think it's going to be all right, though.
Hey, you got to put a charge on that thing before you ride it.
Well, I always get too anxious. I want to see the thing fire up right away.
Impatience.
Every spring in Minnesota, you need the fogging oil in the fall and some stable in the gas tank. Battery comes out and goes on the tender and everything like that. The ritual. You have to enjoy the ritual.
Well, that 21-year-old BMW is sitting on a trailer at my son-in-law's home, and I know I'm going to have battery troubles with it when I reappear, and I'm going to have to remove all the fairing off of that thing to get at the battery. I'm not looking forward to that.
Wow.
The ST13 and the Triumph are kind of like that too. I just seem to have this weakness for bikes with lots of plastic on them.
I did reverse wire a direct negative positive wire from the battery up to the dash and put in a cigarette lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And if I use a trickle charger with a cigarette lighter plug on it, I can reverse charge it directly to the battery, but I think that's only like 2 to 3 amps.
Well, for maintenance, if you throw like a battery tender on it, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I've got the rig on the Triumph.
well, while we wait for Jim, did anybody do any good ride? We did a ride this weekend, rode 420 miles.
Yes.
Long ride.
I'd like to take a poll on seafoam versus stable for stabilizing gas over the winter. Any experience with either?
I've never used seafoam for it, but the stable is designed for that.
I put stable in my boat every May, and when I come back, it seems to fire right up in October.
Nice.
Be careful with stable because it doesn't completely break down the water molecules. It sort of captures them and it sinks at the bottom of the tank. So you have a residual amount of gunk that's.
Well, I always try and fill the tank brimming full before I leave the boat for the season, for the summer.
Yeah, because it's that cold, heat cold that creates the condensation, puts it in your tank. You can't escape it.
Run a fire with some heat, some ethanol or something like that, like we used to prevent a gas line freezing in Minnesota. That stuff will make the water miscible with the gas, and that way you kind of get the water out of the fuel system.
Yeah.
Okay, Linda, I think I'm ready. Can you hear me?
I can.
See you.
Oh, there you are.
And we can see you. Hey.
Let me know if you can't hear, if you have a trouble hearing me. So.
What?
So, can I share my screen?
Yes, so if you go down to the bottom, you'll see a green box that says share, or hit the Alt key and the S key.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, this again. Okay, let me see. I'm going to make you the host, and then you'll have to turn around. Or, yeah. I'm going to make you the host so then you can share. I don't know why it does that. Try it.
I'm the host now.
Yeah.
There we go. Whoa.
I'm going to switch over to my laptop for the Zoom meeting so I can see it better. So I'll drop off of this one in a moment.
Do you see the slide?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let me know if you're having trouble hearing this. I've been doing this since the mid-'80s when this first happened. Right now, I'm telling people that I do cybersecurity odd jobs for the Navy. I'm advising programs and system owners how to secure their systems, evaluating whether or not they're implementing security properly, things like that. I try to update this presentation once a year and give it during October, which is Cybersecurity Month. So it's been tough the last couple of years because I've been doing a lot of training. So.
Sorry about that.
Okay, the slide changed for you.
It did.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to go through some of the history and evolution of this new area of technology. You're going to see that hacking has actually been around quite a while. We're going to review some of the areas of security and some of the actions you can take to protect yourself. You really shouldn't consider this presentation all-inclusive because this is a moving target. Whatever happens today is going to change tomorrow. That's the kind of field this is. You should probably just consider it a baseline or a starting point for things you should be working to improve on. Here are some of the milestones associated with cybersecurity. You see that there was a first virus as early as 1971. In '82, Al Cloner was the first virus found in a wild out on the network, and it was written by a high school student. just a little personal note. Me and one of my guys took a computer we were supposed to install on a ship in 1985. We installed it. We guessed the password, only to find out that it was more classified than we were cleared to see. So I had to turn myself into the captain. So he got me out of trouble though. In 2000, you probably remember the I Love You virus. Anybody remember that one? Went around the planet in about one day. Then there was a dawn of cyber warfare in 2007 when Russia attacked Estonia. Maybe you didn't pay as much attention to it as we did, but that was a big deal. And then in 2008, they attacked Georgia. In honor of the attack in Estonia, NATO has now opened their cybersecurity center in Tallinn, the capital of Estonia. So, one of the first hacking events took place in 1903 when John Fleming was adjusting his apparatus in preparation for a Marconi demonstration of radio wireless. Fleming knew what was going to occur, and there was another fellow that inserted the text. There was a young fellow from Italy who diddled the public quite prettily while this guy was trying to demonstrate his message. So that was the first time somebody hacked in. In 1932, the Polish cryptologist duplicated the Enigma machine, and using stolen codes, they were able to break Allied communications. You might have seen an Imitation Game, and that was about the breaking of the Enigma machine code in 1939. One of the greatest heroes of the war was René Caramilli, French Army General Comptroller. He is also credited as being the first hacker. What he did is compromise the Nazis' punch card system that they were using to track the Jewish. So he withheld information from the Nazis, and then he used his data mining powers to find thousands of French soldiers to be recruited for the French resistance. Wow. And then there was a young guy named Joy Bubbles, who started the phreaking phenomenon. Yeah. They identified that 2600 was the tone that you could use to get long distance from the telephone company. Mm-hmm. Okay. There were 7,700 members of the Chaos Computer Club, which they described as a galactic community of life forms independent of age, sex, race, or societal orientation. You get kind of a funny flavor with some of these hacker groups. The CCC, the Chaos Computer Club, advocates transparency in government, freedom of information, and the human rights. The 414s were a group of computer hackers who broke into dozens of high-profile computer systems, including Los Alamos, Sloan Kettering, and Security Pacific Bank. They were identified as 6 teenagers. As it turned out, they met as members of the local Explorer Scout Post, and they were investigated and identified by the FBI in 1983. Just a passing comment, there's a common misuse of the word hacking. In the early days, people with nefarious intent were called crackers. And hackers were considered people that could use things for purposes other than what they were intended for. Yep. The term has now been commonly changed by the media to a negative connotation for hackers. Okay? Script kiddies are typically an unskilled individual who uses scripts or programs developed by others to attack computer systems and networks. These these malicious codes are available for download and purchase for very little money on websites. So these young people download them, maybe put their name on it, and put it out on the internet just to try and get a name for themselves. Then during 1984 to 91, the Legion of Doom was widely considered to be the most capable hacking group in the world. Then there's another one called the Cult of the Dead Cow. That's a computer hacker and media organization founded in 1984 in Lubbock, Texas. If you look up in the upper, I don't know if you can see that on the upper right-hand corner, that's 2600 magazine. I still get that, except now I get it on my Kindle. So it's pretty interesting. They talk about different ways of hacking, things like that. We move from script kiddies into organized crime. AIDS was called AIDS Info Disk or PC Cyborg Trojan, which is a Trojan horse that replaced the autoexec.bat file. What that would do, it was count the number of times your computer booted up, and after 90 times, it would encrypt your hard drive. If you wanted your data back, it was going to cost you $189. You look at this, the Russian crackers siphoned $10 million from Citibank. They were all busted and did hard time. And you probably heard of Anonymous, a decentralized international hacktivist group that is widely known for its various distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks against government institutions, government agencies, corporations, and they targeted the Church of Scientology. It's kind of interesting. And then there's something called Bureau 121, which is a North Korean cyber warfare agency, part of the Reconnaissance General Bureau of North Korea's military. Bureau 121 was created in 1998. Then, as I mentioned a little earlier, there was a series of attacks in 2007 that swamped websites in Estonia. It included the parliament, banks, ministries, newspapers, broadcasters, and it was about the disagreement with Estonia and Russia. Russia didn't like them taking down their the Russian monuments. So when my wife and I were in Tallinn last year, and they were very proud that they had relocated all the Russian monuments to a park. So when they wanted to remember how it was like when the Russians were in charge, they can go to this park and look at the monuments. They were pretty happy about that. And now, I think I mentioned too that they put the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence in Tallinn. So, and that really was the first, I call it the first wave of cyber warfare, was in Estonia. In 2008, Chinese hackers attacks included Department of Defense, U.S. government, John McCain, Barack Obama, New York Times, our satellites, Washington Post, and probably a bunch of places we don't even know about. Friend Michael was hacked again in 2017 with 200 vulnerabilities. Operation Aurora was a series of cyber attacks conducted by advanced persistent threats such as the Elderwood Group based in Beijing, China, with ties to People's Liberation Armies. They were first publicly disclosed by Google on January 12, 2010. These attacks have been aimed at dozens of other organizations, including Adobe, Juniper, and Rackspace. And according to media reports, Yahoo, Symantec, Northrop Grumman, Morgan Stanley, and Dow Chemical are also among the targets. You're probably all aware of Stuxnet too, where the Iranian nuclear enrichment capability was attacked. Serial control and data acquisition, SCADA, is used to control nuclear power plants, water treatment, distribution plants, power distribution, sewage and treatment, ships, and so on. When I was on a river cruise a couple of years ago, that ship was controlled by SCADA as well. Unfortunately, SCADA is a control system intended for isolated systems and really has poor security. That's where you see a lot of hackings. That's what was done with the nuclear enrichment in Iran. And of course, these days we've heard a lot about the DNC leaks, along with the Chinese hacks on a daily basis. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with ransomware. If you have any questions, feel free. Ransomware, what they will do is they will infect your computer and encrypt all your data. And you lose complete access to your data, and it's going to cost you some money to get it back. The best way to prevent that is to have a good backup of your files. If you have a backup for your files, you can recover from it. I don't know if you can see down in the lower right-hand corner, you have 3 aircraft. If you look at the first aircraft on the left, that is a U.S. space shuttle. You look at the aircraft in the center, that is the Russian space shuttle. Kind of makes you wonder where that design came from, doesn't it? And if you look at the spacecraft on the right, that is the prototype Chinese space shuttle. So they got to use our intellectual property and make up quite some distance. And somebody told me today that the Chinese had hacked in and gotten our F-35 designs, and that got them about 3 generations worth of technical progress. So they're building a F-35-like aircraft, okay? If you want to eliminate your loss of intellectual property, you need to either isolate that data from the network, or you need to mitigate it by encrypting your data. Okay, if that computer is connected to the network, it's accessible basically to the world. Critical national infrastructure, as I mentioned before, that's all this SCADA stuff. And it's pretty easy to get into once it's connected to the network. So you really have to bake in some security, and you're going to have to isolate the global network. Cyber warfare is probably a pretty new word to everybody. It's a way of life for us. We do this stuff every day, so we have to monitor and control our network, see what's going on, take measures to stop any kind of ongoing attacks. Last time I looked at it, the Pentagon was getting attacked about 250,000 times a month. So there's a lot of people trying to get in. If we were to lose our financial institutions, that could potentially wreak havoc on our country. So we need to work on improving bank security and other financial networks. And then every time you hear about WikiLeaks, you're losing some national intelligence. And every time we lose some national intelligence, we're losing some kind of resource. It could be an intelligence resource, or it could be an asset on the ground somewhere. So that's pretty significant. So I wanted to talk a little bit about cyber hygiene. Most everybody should be pulling down their annual credit report and taking a look at it. You can get a free look at your credit report every year from all 3 of the agencies. Linda's going to send out this file afterwards, so all these links will be accessible to you after the meeting. Okay? You want to make sure that when you use a password, you don't want to share them, and you don't want to use the same password for multiple websites. You don't want to use common words, and you want to update them on a regular basis. Michael Linton, who was the CEO of Sony, used the word Sony, his initials, and the number 3 for a password. And if you don't recall, they hacked in pretty quick into his account. You should be using a complex password. Should include uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and characters. Characters including things like a semicolon, an asterisk, a %sign, things like that. Just makes it that much harder to guess the password. You need to patch your system. You need to patch your system. You need to patch your system. 85% of the attacks that were made on the State Department were vulnerabilities that had already been patched, but they didn't install the patch yet. They had to shut down their global network for 6 weeks while they got their system back up to shape. So that was in 2006. Just as a point of reference, they had to take it down again last year. So keep your system up to date. And never take any significant action based on an email. For example, if somebody tells you to send them a check via email, you need to call that person and make sure that they really told you. It was really them that told you. You might get an email from your grandchild that's in France. They want you to wire $3,000 because they're in trouble. Well, it's probably not your grandchild. It's a scam. If you don't know who the email came from, do not click on a link in the email. With most computer systems, you can hover over that URL and it'll tell you what the real URL is. You should make sure that it makes sense to you. If you look at that second bullet from the bottom, my particular bank is USAA, and what they do is send you an email. Instead of saying USAA.com, it comes from myusaa.com, and it's a scam. Is that making sense to everybody?
It does.
Okay. Or the same thing like PayPal.com, they'll make it like something like myPayPal.com. So it's a scam. And if you click on that link, all you have to do is click on the links. Nothing will happen, but they may have installed malicious software in your computer already. That's all it takes is clicking on that link. Okay, and they may be encrypting your files. They may be using you to mine for cryptocurrency, but they're up to no good. So you just have to make sure that you understand where you're going. You can go to this benward.com, and that'll test your browser to tell if it is giving away your location, your geographic location. Okay. Am I boring you yet? Does anybody have a wireless doorbell, a wireless refrigerator, a wireless thermostat, a wireless toaster, a wireless oven?
How about the Alexa or the Google Home?
Well, Alexa's listening to everything you say. If you get in trouble, they're probably going to subpoena it and listen to everything you've been saying. So, okay.
All right, Scott, you're busted.
Every one of those IoT devices is a gateway into your private network at home. And I'm going to give you an example. Is there was a casino in Las Vegas that put in a wireless thermostat for the fish tank in the lobby. And somebody broke into that thermostat and stole 10.5 gigabytes of information about all the high rollers that gamble at that hotel. 10.5 gigabytes is a lot of information.
Yeah.
So, okay, a lot of the new wireless access points have a second guest network, and that may be a good place for you to connect your, we call them Internet of Things devices, your doorbells, refrigerators, your Echo, your baby monitors, and all that stuff. You don't want to put that on your network because that's going to give them direct access to your computer. Okay? Another thing you want to do is if you put in like a wireless access point or any other kind of device, you want to make sure you change the default password. I went in and did an installation down in Key West, and nobody knew the password for the system, so I pulled out the manual, and it was the default installation password when it was installed 15 years ago. So,
I had the same thing happen at one of my former employers.
yeah. And your vendor may have a guide when you buy a new device. Your vendor, whoever you bought it from, may have a guide that tells you how to securely configure your device. But all these devices, they don't have any security, so you want to make sure you put it on the second network, you know, your guest network. I helped one of my friends put a webcam system in his lake house because he wanted to be able to see what was going on when he wasn't there. So we put it in, and you could go to a website and look and see we think we put in 10 cameras. And at the end of the URL for his webcams, there was a number. So I was just playing around. I changed that number, and I got to see somebody else's webcams. I don't know where they were, but I got to look around the inside of their house. So any of that stuff, you have to be careful. It can be a backdoor into your information. Any questions about that?
I have something. So that follows along with the baby monitors that are wireless as well, because I've heard stories about those coming in on baby monitors.
Yeah, a lot of times they can see the video if the baby monitor has video. And I remember one case where somebody was transmitting obscenities into the baby's nursery. I don't know why somebody would do that, but they were saying these words, and the baby was hearing it all, you know. So, kind of creepy.
Yeah, a lot creepy.
So, I'd like to draw your attention to that second bullet. I made it a little bigger so you could read it. That's never click on a link in an email you don't know about, you're unsure about. Make sure that if you're going to click on that link, you know where you're going, you know who sent it, you know what the purpose of that link is. If I get something from somebody I know and I don't know where that link is, or I'm unsure about what it is, it just is not worth it to me to click on that link. You can, every time I'm suspicious, I find out that they've been hacked. So it's just not worth it if you're unsure. You want to make sure if you have antivirus software, you want to keep it up to date. But Windows Defender, if you have Windows 10, is pretty much just as good as antivirus software. So. Social media is evil. Just want to put it out there. I've all but given up on social media. There's too many malicious things going on. The Chinese are watching me, maybe the Russians. 50 attractive women want to be my friends on Facebook. I get offered 20 jobs a day if I answer a question, you know, stuff like that. So one thing I do want to mention is if you're going on a trip, you don't want to be posting your pictures while you're there. You want to wait till you get home. When we went on a river cruise a few years ago, my sister-in-law posted our picture on it and said we'd be gone a month. Well, now the whole world knows my house is going to be empty for a month.
Right.
So I recommend you wait. If you are contacted from anyone on Facebook or anywhere else asking for money, make sure you independently verify it. There was a guy in Beaufort County where I live that some of these hackers had talked this old guy into sending him like a couple $100 on a scam a few years ago. So they targeted this guy. They convinced him that he owed them $70,000. They got a locksmith to go to his house and change his locks so he couldn't get in. They sent a tow company over to tow his car and convinced this guy that he genuinely owed him the money and they were going to take his house away if he didn't send it. The sheriff luckily intercepted the package at FedEx going out with $70,000 cash in it. And the guy got his money back. What a scam, huh?
Wow.
Unbelievable.
So this one's kind of cute. There's a story about a guy that changed girlfriends, and he let his new girlfriend use his Netflix account, and then she looked at all his past movies and got to watch all the movies that him and his ex had watched. So he kind of got in trouble over that. That resulted in some friction. I got another one like that coming up, I think. And if you must use social media, make sure you restrict your privacy settings to your friends. Okay? I can't figure out where that noise is coming from.
Maybe if we're not talking, everybody mute themselves except for Jim.
All right, mobile. Oh yeah, here's the other story. There was a story about a fella that gave his old iPad to his child. What he forgot to do was change the password on his cloud storage account. Then the child asked the mother who that lady was with daddy in all those pictures. Then there was another fella that let his new girlfriend have access to his cloud account, and she got to see all the intimate pictures of him and his ex in various parts of the house. I don't know what happened in the first story, but in the second story, he ended up buying a new house. As I mentioned before, when you respond to unknown text or emails, or even voicemails, make sure you independently verify who you're talking to. Apple is pretty good about checking applications for security. If you are on an Android, it's still the wild, wild west. You need to be careful when you download your apps for Android. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term of jailbreaking your phone, but do not jailbreak your phone. That gives you root access to your phone, and it makes it much easier to hack into that phone. Okay? Make sure that your children understand the stranger danger also applies to the internet. There's bad people on the internet as well. Human trafficking is rampant. Oh, and something that you may not know, you may or may not know, is that Google has a record of every search that you have ever performed going back to the beginning of Google. Something like 2003. Just so you know, they're collecting some information on you.
You have some control over that, though, Jim. You can go in and delete those data now. You used to not be able to, but now you can go in and delete those data.
That's true. Okay, at work, you want to make sure you're taking care of your employees and customers' personal information. You should institute a cybersecurity training program. And like I said, always make sure you know who you're communicating with. I have another story about a company with a new payroll lady. She received an email from the company president asking her to send him all the W-2s so he could review them. This was on her first day on the job. She sent them back, and when she ran into him in the hallway, she asked him if he received the W-2s. He said, "I never asked for the W-2s." So she sent all the W-2s in the company to an unknown hacker, cost the company $130,000, and now she's looking for a job. Okay? So if I haven't told you this already, always verify who you are talking to. It never hurts to pick up the phone and verify that it was really them that sent an email or a text before you take action on it. I got this out of an article, and I just thought I would just throw it in there. So we talked a little bit about online persona. It has some influence on your security, but it's more about how to take care of your internet personality. One thing you want to do is you should do a Google search on yourself if you haven't already done that. You might be surprised at what's out there. I think that things come up for me that were 10, 15 years ago that are surprising. You might consider getting your own domain, getting a domain name. It's not very expensive, depending on the kind of domain. I think that might be a little over the top, but it gives you an identity. Make sure you put all your content in one place. I do LinkedIn. I don't do Facebook anymore. LinkedIn's more of a business type social media. You might want to join some social networks, get to know people. I actually met my wife on the internet through an invitation through her sister. So you want to, one of my college courses required me to do my LinkedIn page. That's how I got started on LinkedIn. So people recommend it, and I get picked up on searches all the time. I get employment opportunities, but I don't really want to move. So, and keep the private things private. Assume nothing is truly private on the internet. Your pictures on Facebook, you can delete them, but Facebook still owns them, right? So anything you put up there, they own. Bullets 4 and 5 are about building the brand. The sixth bullet is one worth looking at for sure. You want to, because now they're starting to look when you apply for a job, they're starting to look at your Facebook, your LinkedIn, things like that. Here's an overview of some of the things you may want to consider implementing personally. I bought a golf club from a small sports store in Florida, and within a day or two, my credit card number had been compromised. Make sure you implement available security features and that you understand what companies do with your information. A lot more companies sell your information than you realize. Be very careful about what you post online and wait till you get home to share your vacation. Make sure you check all your account statements every month and your credit reports on an annual basis. You can also put a block on your credit now, and it doesn't cost anything. They just drop the charges on that. I don't have that in the brief because I just got notified about that last week. So. I used Wikipedia for a lot of the reference in this, and I highly recommend this book, The Art of Invisibility. Kevin Mitnick is Uber hacker. He's got a consulting company now. Very entertaining reading, and a lot of the hackers opened up to him because he was one of them. When he was young, he ended up going to jail for some of the stuff he did, but he's very talented, particularly good with social engineering. So it gives you a lot of tips about how to run your personal security and the things that you can do. So sorry I ran over. Sorry I had trouble getting in.
All good. Anybody have questions for Jim?
Yeah, I have a question for Jim. So I use a piece of software that I was sort of a little bit on the fence about purchasing originally. It's called Bitdefender, and it's actually an antivirus and security software that is out of the Eastern Bloc, in Russia. And I was a little concerned about actually using that software, but it's pretty well respected. And so I'm curious as to what you think your opinion about that is. And then the other thing is, you talk about complex passwords, but I didn't hear a whole lot about how to give people a way to solve that problem. And so I wanted your opinion about password managers.
Yeah, I think if you have a lot of accounts, you should be using a password manager. LastPass is supposed to be very good, and you can get, I think you can get a free version of it, and then they have a pay version. I think it's $24 a year. It's multi-person, so it's not very expensive. Bitdefender, that's I don't have any experience with that. We would not use a Russian product where I work. As a matter of fact, Kaspersky is being removed from all U.S. government systems.
I read that article. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, they, I think they've been spying on us. So,
Jim, what do you think about WebRoot Secure Anywhere?
WebRoot Secure Anywhere, is that a package?
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I've used it for probably 5 years now, and I've never had a problem.
I'm not familiar with it. We use McAfee.
Okay.
And I use the Windows 10. I just use the Windows Defender now. They update it 4 times a day, so it stays pretty current. But I can look into this WebRoot and see what's going on.
Well, like I say, I've been pleased with it. I've never had a problem with it.
How much does it cost?
Oh, it's I think I can put it on up to 5 devices now, and I think it's about $139 every 3 years.
Well, that's not bad. Where's it made?
Good question. I would have thought that it was a U.S. product, but I won't swear to that either.
Well, I'll check these out and let you know in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be here next week. I will be up in the mountains, and I don't know if I'll have wireless or not. So, any other questions?
I got none.
Looks like WebRoot is an American product. I just took a look at it. I'd never heard of it before either, Jim, and I've been in the business for a long time before I started into medicine. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, I'll take a
Well,
look. I just hadn't heard of it.
Yeah.
They have WebRoot Secure Anywhere. I'm looking at it now, and I have this particular version on the mobile, which is my phone, and then they have the Secure Web, and I'm calling that up now, and that's Smarter Cybersecurity Solutions for the Connected World, blah, blah, businesses, individuals, wherever they connect, home and office. And I like I say, I've never had a problem with it.
Never been attacked, never had a virus, none of that?
No, the only attacks I get, and I'm so sick of them, are scam phone calls.
And they're getting more and more all the time.
Yeah, you can register yourself on the do not call list, and then they'll ignore it. But
Well, yeah, that's exactly what's happened.
yeah,
They ignore the do not call registry.
yeah,
I just block them after I'm done. After I hang up, it's like block them.
Yeah, but whoever it is that has those phone numbers now uses the prefix for your area code.
Yeah.
You almost have to answer because it may be somebody that you know or used to know.
yeah. They're spoofing numbers now.
Pardon?
They're spoofing numbers. They make it look like it's coming from down the street.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that.
And I understand you can block every single one of them that comes in, but they've got thousands more sitting there waiting to be used.
Yeah, and they got a robot probably doing the dialing.
Well, and the bigger problem is that it's oftentimes not unused numbers. That it's that you know, they've spoofed your neighbor's number, and then you block the number, and your neighbor can't call you.
Yeah.
So it's even worse than what you might think. You know, there's not just a big block of unused numbers that they're using. They're setting up.
I spend as much time now trying to figure out spam and scam as I do actually talking on important calls.
There's some apps you can put on your phone that are, I don't know if you've seen them, Brian or Jim, but they recognize if it's a spam call or not, or it'll say possible spam call.
Yeah, I have that going on with my T-Mobile application, and it works a lot of times, but
Yeah.
it's just, you know.
I was just
I
going
have
to say.
that on my T-Mobile, but again, I've had a couple of calls coming in from people that I really want to talk to, and it says suspected spam.
Yeah.
Can't win.
You might be able to whitelist those too within that application.
Yeah, well, one's
said.
Anyway.
Huh?
Well said. Yeah, you don't hear too many people talking about whitelisting.
'Cause I have mine locked down so tight. I have Ghostery and then ad blocker that I have to whitelist some pages because it won't load otherwise.
Very nice talk, Jim. I really liked it.
Really good.
Good presentation. Good presentation, Jim. I think most of you know that I'm a bank manager in Canada for Royal Bank of Canada, and we deal with fraud, identity takeover, scams on a daily basis with clients. And there's one that does by telephone, and it's the Canada Revenue Agency. They call, they leave you a message and say that you're behind in your taxes, and if you don't respond right away, they're going to have you arrested, and it gets very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily people are on they know about that one. One that I see fairly often at work is senior clients who get the call regarding their grandchild that's been in an accident in another province or another country, and they actually have spoken to someone on the phone and they have believed that it was their grandchild. And the way they do this is that they say, I've been injured, I've injured my mouth. I had one client actually send his credit card, his physical credit card, send it to an address in Montreal because he believed his grandchild was in Montreal in trouble.
Mhm.
So we have training constantly at work around fraud prevention and asking clients a lot of questions about transactions that they're doing, because they'll have received a check in the mail from somebody they don't know. They're not sure who got it, or they've sold something on Kijiji and they've received a check that's more than what they asked for the item. And of course, once they process that check, it comes back returned, and then they're out that money. And some clients get upset because we're asking them so many personal questions about their transaction, but we have to do the due diligence now to ask those questions to protect the clients, because a lot of them are seniors and they unfortunately fall for it a little easier. But it's constant every single minute of the day at work. That's what you're looking for, is fraudulent transactions.
We have a scam going on where you get a call from somebody that says you missed jury duty and you either need to pay a fine or go to jail.
Yep.
They want your credit card right now.
Yep.
So
And it's very sad to see the people that, especially single seniors, they've lost their spouse, they're at home alone. And of course, the scammers will say, go to your bank and do this transaction, but do not tell anybody in the bank what you're doing. And a lot of the times they'll say, you're doing a mystery shop on the bank. We're paying you to go do a mystery shop. So be prepared. They're going to ask you questions about the transaction, but don't answer any of their questions. So it makes it pretty tough to get down to the bottom. And some clients get really angry. I had one senior couple that wanted to wire $80,000 from Ontario to Alberta. And I questioned them, and then they got mad at me for asking them questions. Like, they said, it's none of your business, and we want to send this money, and you can't say no. And actually, I did say no. I said, no, I'm not going to do this for you. And luckily, something told me to send a notice out to the other neighboring branches in our area. And I did, and they drove half an hour to another branch to do it. And if I hadn't sent that email out to warn them, they might have done it. But and it was a scam, and they could have lost 80 grand.
That happens here too. My mom calls me when she gets stuff like that. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just nip it in the bud right there. But it happens down here too.
Yeah, and the number of senior clients that send money monthly to the publication, like Reader's Digest, if you send in this money, you're going to win $1 million.
Yep.
Like tens of thousands of dollars per month going through their accounts, and then all of a sudden their family comes in with them and say, "What is going on with my mom's account?" And you sit down with them and say, "Well, she sent $2,000 to these companies," and the seniors get quite mad. I've had seniors not speak to me for quite a while after. They're like, "No, this is a scam. You need to stop it." But they don't want to hear that.
well, I don't know how to transfer ownership back to you, Linda.
Click in go in the upper right of your window. You'll see 3 dots.
Okay.
And then click on those 3 dots, and it should allow you to pass control back over.
I don't see it.
You don't see it. Either that, or you'll have to end the meeting when it's done.
Okay, well, I can stop recording.
Okay. All right. Well, we're over a little bit, but sorry.